welcome to Inspiring Women with Renee Allen. No, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. I think it's easier for me to say when I'm just doing audio. When I see myself on the camera, it is a little bit distracting. But welcome to the podcast today. My son's coming home during his break. I record in this room where he sleeps when he comes home. It was never his room because we moved here after he had graduated, but I'm getting my recording done last second, which is perfect because I'm talking about impulsivity and just the irregular ways we may do things if we have that part of ADHD. And I definitely do. So I feel like people talk more about the inattentive part of ADHD or the hyperactive part of ADHD more than the impulsiveness, the impulsivity. The definitions or the types, the categories of ADHD are actually 4 types. It depends on which website you look at. I think I was looking at the Cleveland Clinic website, which is really good, has really good information on ADHD. But I was looking at a few, and I think it was saying there were 4 types. But there's the attention deficit type. There is the hyperactive impulsive type, which sometimes people say hyperactivity type or impulsivity type. And then there is the combined type, that you have both of those impacting you with your ADHD. There's a 4th type, which is basically saying there aren't enough symptoms to put you in either of those types or any of the 3 types. And so they just say it's, what do they call it here? An unspecified presentation. So you do have some severe symptoms of ADHD that interfere with your daily life, but your symptoms don't meet the official criteria for the 3 types. So they call it unspecified ADHD. That's the first time I heard of it, but I thought I'd let you know in case you think, well, I went to my doctor and he said I didn't have either of them, but I definitely have these symptoms. And there could be other reasons you're not diagnosed, but that could be one of them. So you could always ask about that. But it's interesting because, in the world of internet, the world of TikTok, I don't really watch TikTok. Do you watch TikTok? Look at TikTok? Whatever the lingo is these days. I don't really look at TikTok very often unless my daughter sends me something or when Taylor Swift was still doing live performances. Sometimes I go on there and watch. And I go back and watch the concert that we saw, the Tampa second night, where we got the Lover's Sky. So proud of that. Anyway, back to TikTok, Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts. I see a lot of ADHD videos that show, like neurotypical person leaving their house, just walking out the door. This one kind of made me sad because I see myself way too much in this one, but the neurotypical person, my husband, walking out the door, or at least the person without ADHD walking out the door. And then the ADHD person, like, where's my keys? Like you're tapping every part of your body. Or this was a man in this video, but you're looking through your purse, like, do I have this? Do I have that? Wait, did I grab my keys? I got everything else, and they're in your hand or they're on the table or whatever. Every day of my life, that is me checking. Sometimes I have it all with me. Sometimes I don't. So there are those kind of videos. There are also the ones that, I'm just putting them into categories because I always have my pet peeves of videos I watch. And that's probably why I don't go to Instagram or TikTok very often. But the other one is telling us something really specific about ADHD or having an opinion. And the one that I saw yesterday was ADHD is not awesome, because there are people who say that ADHD is awesome, or there might be a website that's like ADHD is awesome to help kids not feel bad about themselves, or maybe help us feel more positive that there are some perks, there are some positives. For me, there's a lot of things that are comical about it, just the crazy things every day. I think, oh, I should write these down and talk about them but there's so many I can't even keep track of them, of the things that I spill, the things that drop out of my hands, the things that I trip over, the moments, like where you think, oh, okay, I'm so on top of it. I have my water bottle. I have so many water bottles. I have handles. Okay. Hydro flask. If you can see this handle. So it's not so big. It doesn't hurt your hand and you don't drop it as much. Or that if you don't put the lid on all the way, all the time, I get to yoga and my bag is soaking wet. And I don't know how many times I've brought my bag home and I had to open up my wallet and dry everything out. And yeah. Okay. So all those things are frustrating, but they can be comical. But, the ADHD is hard. And I agree. I've had hard moments today with ADHD, but I still feel positive about it because knowing what I'm dealing with helps me when it's hard, helps me understand it, helps me see what's happening. And I am surprised that each week I am still learning things that I think I didn't realize I did that. Or I thought maybe I did it a few times. I didn't know I do it so often, the things that other people see about ADHD. The other videos that I see are the ones that say things like, and I know they say things that will catch your attention. They call them the hook. You say something that makes somebody stop the scroll and watch. Yeah, you say when you see that. And one of them is, why do they call it a disorder? Like that is awful to tell us that we have a disorder. Or why do they say we don't have attention, attention deficit? We pay attention to a lot of things. So they're taking a little bit of the ADHD title, group name, whatever you want to call it. However, the psychiatrists, whoever it was that came up with this categorization, and it's the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. So that would be a DSM of mental disorders. So that is a big book, or if it's an actual book, it probably is, where the psychiatrists at some point have defined all these mental disorders, personality disorders, now I can't even think of it. Neurodivergent, is that what this is? Yeah, neurodevelopmental, that's what ADHD is. It's in the category of neurodevelopmental. It wasn't something that developed after you were born. It was something that developed as your brain was forming. And one of the things that they look for when they are doing a diagnosis or when you're seeking to get diagnosed is the psychiatrist, whoever your doctor is, or I don't know if therapists diagnose. I know there are many people who do. They look for how it showed up in childhood. They say that to have it be a neurodevelopmental disorder, ADHD, you see symptoms before the age of 12, and most commonly they start between the ages of 3 and 6, which I find is super interesting because I just read that today. So now I want to sit and think, okay, what do I remember from ages 3 to 6? I remember nothing from age 3. So this is an ADHD thing where we go down the rabbit hole of, being curious about something and then spending a lot of time looking into it or deciding you want to buy a present for your cousin and spending 3 days researching which one should be the best or going to different stores and tracking things down. Who knows? Whatever it is that you go down the rabbit hole in. I do that with my curiosity. And so age 3, don't remember. No memories of age 3. Age 4, I have memories. I started kindergarten when I was 4, almost 5. And I do remember the first day of school. And I do remember that my kindergarten teacher told me I asked to go to the bathroom all the time because I didn't like to sit still. I didn't know that then. And yeah, I do have to go to the bathroom a lot. But that could be a pattern I developed because I didn't want to stay in my room. And maybe that's it. my mom told me I was wiggly. When my kids were super wiggly, she goes, "You were wiggly." And I thought, I never knew I was wiggly. As a child, you don't know if you're wiggly unless people tell you to stop wiggling. And I mostly remember my grandma telling me not to, jump on the bed and plop down on the couch. But, so that would be a more impulsive way of doing, a more active way of doing it. My one brother, everyone said he was hyperactive. No one said he had ADHD. But we all know now he did for sure. But he was always jumping off the couch. And he and I always knew we were the most alike in so many ways. I did cartwheels, back bends, back walkovers randomly without announcing through the house. Once I learned how to do that kind of stuff, I did it in PE, not PE, just like out on the playground with my friends. We'd run and jump and do diving somersaults and, no gymnastics training at all, just on the hard grass in the playground. And yeah, I kicked my mom in the head once with an impulsive cartwheel in the house because I just thought, I'll do a cartwheel. I wasn't thinking about it. And it didn't seem strange to me. Do you know where the salt flats are? I don't know if you've ever been I don't know if it's in Nevada or Utah. It's probably in Utah, but we would drive I-80 from Nevada to Utah. And I guess it's in Utah. And there are salt flats, and they're white, and they're beautiful. Any picture you take out there is so pretty. It's so pretty. Everyone looks good when they take pictures in the snow. And it's not snow, but it's salt. But anyway, of course, I had to try. This is like as a mom of 6. We were out there with our kids on a road trip. And my husband took a video of me doing a cartwheel because I had to see what it was like. I do cartwheels at the beach. I had to see what it was like to do a cartwheel on the salt flats. And it kind of hurts your hands. It's crackly and hard. It hurts. But so anyway, he took a video. My husband doesn't talk nearly as much as I do. But he narrated and said something like, "This is what it's like being married to Renee," which I thought was funny. Yeah, because, to me, that's not weird to do cartwheels impulsively, but, that's because I'm hyperactive. So do you have any of the hyperactive impulsive parts? You might not think you have the hyperactive. Maybe you weren't wiggly when you were little. Maybe you knew how to sit still. When my kids were little, I was in awe and shocked, all of the above, with families at church whose children sat still, because my children were not that. My grandchildren are not that, depending on the grandchild. And I do have at least 3 grandchildren with ADHD. Well, 2 diagnosed, but 3 for sure. So anyway, we're not supposed to diagnose other people, but we can observe. So, okay, so the hyperactive impulsive type, I have the combined. I have the attention deficit type and the hyperactive impulsive type. And yeah, people get like up in arms about, I keep doing this to my hair. I'm sorry. I got to apologize to all you audio people because my hair looks so flat. Like in real life, I don't feel like it is. Maybe it really is. But I see it in a picture or, like I'll go get my hair cut and I'll go, "Oh, it's so cute." And they straighten it and everything. And it looks like it has body. And then I'll go home and say, "Someone take a picture." And it looks like it's just painted on. So anyway, okay, I'm going to try not to look at myself. Okay, back to the hyperactive impulsive type. So let's talk about some of these things, because even if you're not diagnosed with this type, you're only diagnosed with attention deficit type. You may have some of these symptoms, but not enough of them to have a diagnosis with them. You might have some of them, but not enough because there are a certain number that they want you to have. Mine was and they'll give you like a severe, moderate. I need to go back and look at the notes. I do know that my doctor in the first visit said I was hyperverbal, which made me laugh. See, ADHD can be fun. Like it may not be awesome, but it can be funny that your doctor calls you hyperverbal. And I decided because I could, okay, I'm going to talk about this a little bit too, because there are different kinds of impulsivity. Some of them are without forethought. Some are them with a struggle to stop an impulse. So you're trying to hold it in. So there must be some thought there. And then there's some that like you're really making a choice. There's 3 names for these, but I feel like I have all 3, but I do have the awareness at times with the talking and not always, but I do notice other people's faces because I'm so sensitive to other people's emotions and stuff and the looks that they have. And I do notice when they're not interested in hearing what I have to say. But I've decided, and I want you to feel comfortable with this too, that when I go to the psychiatrist, and I have to go every, 3 months in the state that I live in order to get the stimulants, you have to see the doctor either on video or in person every 3 months to continue getting your medication because it's a controlled substance. So I've tried the video and that's fine, but I felt like I wasn't really connecting with this last resident and I didn't like him as much and I don't think he got me. So I finally went in mostly because I was supposed to. They said after a year you have to go in. So I did and we got along much better. But I decided that I am paying them, so they have to listen to me if I want to be chatty because it's important for a psychiatrist. It is important for the doctor to understand the ADHD patient. And if I am really controlling myself, those impulses, and I can, but sometimes it's not as fun, and I like to connect with people. So I think I'm paying them. Therefore, they get to see full display of ADHD patient, and that should be fine. So that's my new stance. Instead of like feeling bad about it, I'm like, no, like if they had somebody come in who had depression, they would expect to have them behave as somebody with depression. So if they come in and they know I'm coming in with a flaming case of ADHD, they can get that. So anyway, okay, back to the ADHD. So ADHD, the frontal lobe of the brain. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. My son is majoring in neuroscience. I need to ask him about this when he comes home tonight because he's flying across the country right now. But I'm curious about this frontal lobe. I know there's executive function there. I know there's a lot of wiring that determines how we do things. And one is how we direct our attention. So those who are up in arms and trying to get that hook on their video to say, it's not an attention disorder, it's not an inability. Well, this is what I learned today, is that with ADHD, directed attention, so it is harder to have directed attention. I'm only getting this out of the way so we can talk about hyperactivity and impulsivity because, we got to get the questions out of the mind so we can focus on something else. But it's harder for them to use directed attention. And directed attention is the ability to focus on something that you don't find very interesting. So if you are talking to somebody, they are not very interesting. There's a TV show on. It is not very interesting. Your teacher's talking about a subject. I didn't used to like history. My dad said history is my favorite subject. And I thought, so boring. At some point, like when I actually saw it as a story and I'd see movies, I was in the days of the 8mm videos that came in. They weren't videos, 8mm film and film strips, so we didn't really have good media. But if I could watch a movie or read a book, like all the books about World War II, then I was able to focus on it because I found it interesting. But directed attention is the ability to focus on something that you don't find very interesting. People who don't have that wiring problem of ADHD can tune into things that aren't as interesting. They can tune in better or more easily than those of us who have that. But when we find things interesting, we can get all kinds of things done. And that's where we do that, like I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm hyper-focusing because we can do that way, 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 way better. So that's just out of that. So it takes a lot of energy to use directed attention when you don't have that frontal lobe functioning. And let's just skip past that. So back to back to hyperactive impulsive ADHD. So a lot of times they just kind of talk about what it's like in children because it's very easy to see with children. Some can sit still, some can't. What about adults? What could be a way that the hyperactive could show up in an adult? The impulsive can show up in an adult. Well, One could be saying things without thinking, just shouting things out, blurting things out, and you didn't even realize you did it. Somebody is talking and you just interrupt them. Somebody's talking and you're just chiming in with things like, yes, I know, I remember that. All you're doing, you're not trying to take the attention away from them. You are just so engaged. You don't even know you're talking. That is that impulsivity without forethought. You're just doing it. You're just doing it. One time, okay, my kids love to talk about this, and I actually find it funny too. I don't like the stories, the family stories where everyone finds it funny but me. And it's about me, but this one I found funny. But we were at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, and it's an amusement park that's on the beach, like the old-fashioned boardwalks from the 1920s. I don't know when it was built, actually, maybe even earlier. But they have an old roller coaster, giant dipper, and everything. It's really fun. So this was a period of my life when I was eating very, very healthy, all whole foods. And the more you eat just whole foods, the more healthy food looks so good. And I've even done it to the point of mostly eating raw foods or all raw foods. And I remember going to the zoo with my kids once and seeing, you know how like they'll have like lettuce and, you know, the vegetarian stuff in a dish for like the, not monkeys, who would be a vegetarian animal? I don't know. But they have that. And I remember looking at that and thinking, that looks good, you know? So, and I'm not even a salad person. I'm not. But that looks good. So we were at the boardwalk one night, and we would go on Monday nights because it was like $1 a ride. It was $1 night or something. So everything was $1. It was like a soda, Pepsi, hot dogs, rides, $1 a ride. So we would go on $1 night on Mondays because, you know, all the tourists were gone. So we could go, and we lived 15 minutes away. And so we were there, and I don't know, my husband's getting a hot dog. So I'm just standing there. I'm not going to order a hot dog, you know, because I'm eating like the healthy foods and stuff. I'm not even drawn to that. I don't even like the smell of any of those things. But I walk by the little kind of counter area. It's like around a box or something. And there's a little counter there where people can bring the paper tray that they're given, you know, it's not really a plate, with their hot dog in it, and they can put ketchup, mustard, relish, whatever on it. And there was one of those little, what are they called? They're like a rectangular little dish that had raw onions in it, just chopped up raw onions. And I walked up to it and I said, and I picked them up and I put the onions in my mouth and I started eating them. And I was just like, these are so good. And my kids were just horrified. They're like, Mom, those aren't yours. And there was somebody over to the side that it was their onions to put on their hot dog. And I didn't even think about it before that was in my mouth. I did not think about it. So it was a swift action without forethought or conscious judgment. That was that. And, my brain, I think, oh gosh, I'm going to have an alarm go off because it's getting close to needing to go. But yeah, so you might actually say something. You might even actually do something. If you've ever been in your house and, you know, your brain's going all over the place because you're like, I got to do this, I got to do that. And then you go, oh, I need to do this. Or like you're running water in the bathtub, but then you go in the other room to cook something. And then you go, oh, it's the bathtub. And then you run back to turn the water off. But you're not really thinking, you're acting before your brain is really engaged. And so you trip over something because you're going faster than your brain is processing what's going on. Like you leap. Have you ever leaped in your house, leapt and tripped or ran into something and have bruises because of that? I have. And I know a lot of times I come on here and I think I might be the only person doing this and it feels kind of stupid, but yeah, I do it all the time. I just leap across something like, oh, I need to do that. Or, oh my goodness, I forgot I had something on the stove, you know? So it's a combined ADHD reaction. Sometimes it's, you know, like, oh no, like a disaster can happen if I don't hurry. But other times it's just like, I should go do that. And I hop across something and just my body goes faster than it should be. And yeah, so you could do that. Even on Easter morning. So happy Easter to anyone who celebrates Easter or just loves Easter. But on Easter morning, I waited till, I spent 3 hours doing pre-cooking stuff for dinner. And then it was time to put on my makeup and put on a dress and go to church. And so I knew I could do it fast enough, and I was doing it. But then the shoes I decided to wear, which I didn't need to wear, but I decided to wear them, were sandals. And I thought, well, you never paint your toenails anymore. You should paint your toenails. It's Easter. And there could be another 10 minutes. I never paint my toenails anymore, but I'll just leave it at that for right now. So usually I'll sit down. Painting my toenails would be a relaxing thing, and going and get a pedicure would even be more relaxing, but I kind of just don't have time for that anymore. So I go into the bathroom really quickly, open up, look for the toenail polish. That's the Insta-Dry, the Sally Hansen Insta-Dry, because I think, it won't last, but at least I'll just put it on really fast because I am in a hurry. So this is an impulsive decision. I knew what I was doing. I didn't trip on the way to the drawer. I didn't slam my finger or anything. I didn't drop anything, break anything, which is actually a miracle because usually that kind of thing will happen. But I leaned over. I didn't even sit on the ground, and I love sitting on the ground, so usually that's my go-to. But I leaned over, and I am just painting my toenails so fast that it would look like my grandson had done it. I mean, it was just like the toe and everything, but I didn't have time. It was so impulsive. It was such a crazed behavior that I was like committed to it. And in my mind, I knew you don't have to wear those sandals. You can wear closed-toed shoes. You don't even have to have your toenails painted. I'm at the age where I think no one is looking at you that much. No one cares what you look like, so, but I did it. And then I grabbed some fingernail polish remover and a little paper towel, and I thought, my husband's going to hate it if I try to clean this up in the car, because he would hate the smell. But he ended up not wanting to wait for me, so I rode with my daughter, and I just said, sorry, but I have to do this. And I was really careful. I didn't spill any in her car because she has leather seats and stuff. But anyway, I just knew as I was doing it, this is totally impulsive. This is stupid. It's not pre-planned. It's not a good choice to try to squeeze this in when you need to get there on time, because I was leading the children in a song and I needed to get there to get the visuals and stuff. I knew it wasn't a wise choice, but the impulse was so strong to wear those shoes and paint my toenails that, it's kind of lame. But anyway, oh my goodness. Stop reminding me. I should turn off my reminders. Sorry about that. But so I'm just going to tell you these because obviously I'm on a time crunch. but there's 3 kinds of impulsive behavior. The first one, they call it self-report. I have no idea why. It doesn't make sense to me. But it's the acting first. They call it an inability to think. And I guess that's it. I think of it as I'm not thinking first, but I guess I'm unable to think of it first because I act so quickly. Do something like, someone has a mosquito on their face and I slap their face or something. That'd be like slapping without thinking, is this appropriate? So it's just making an action with your body, with your words, without thinking about it first, unable to think about it. The other one is having some kind of action in you. So they call it not being able to withhold a response. So, and I don't know that everybody else even wants this response, but if I'm sitting in a meeting, if I'm sitting in a Zoom call, all I want to do is move my body. All I want to do is change how I'm sitting. But I'm so aware of everyone else and so afraid that's going to be distracting that it just builds up inside of me. So you have this bursting feeling. And as a child, you probably don't have that bursting feeling as much. As a child, you're probably just more doing it. You're probably just like thinking, I want to get up and move. I want to get up and move. So maybe you are thinking about it first. My youngest son did this a lot. He'd get out of his chair and he'd go do something and the teacher would get mad at him, especially if he did it out of curiosity, because a lot of times he was curious about something in the room and would want to touch it, feel it, investigate it, see how it was made and figure that out, which was definitely a learning experience. You're at school to learn. So his brain was thinking, but he wasn't participating in the classroom in a way that he should. So you are thinking about it, but you still don't contain yourself. And the first one, the self-reporting, the acting first, the not thinking, the study that I read, and this is like the National Health, they have a website where they kind of tell the studies. Where they study all these illnesses and diseases and things, and this is with the impulsive. But the first one, they just said that they've done most of their studies on people with addictions. And so impulsivity, they're studying more not because that person has ADHD, but because they have an addiction. And if you think about it, when you see somebody who's really strung out on drugs, not that I have a lot of experience with that, but it can be scary because they're not in control of their bodies. So they're not thinking, they're unable to think. And their bodies can be powerful and scary and do things that are dangerous, So you just think, oh, that person, like I gotta, be careful. You can see it in their eyes. So that's somebody who's under the influence of something that's causing that. So they study people with addictions to see what's happening to them, what brain structure and function is happening for that kind. For the not being able to hold a response, but thinking about it, that is a serotonin function problem in the brain. And it's interesting because they said that they study how amphetamines, which is one of the medications, the stimulants that people use with ADHD, how that helps. I don't know that, because I do take stimulants, I don't know that it helps me at all with that need to move, to do things, to talk more. I haven't noticed medication helping me with that at all. In fact, I would say when I go to teach yoga, when I take the medication right before, I feel like my need to talk is greater. I feel like it's greater. So I don't know maybe that is because, it's the energy, but the serotonin. So the serotonin levels has something to do with that second kind of impulsive behavior. The third one is called choice impulsivity. And that is an inability to make a choice that's logical. That's how I would say it. But it's an inability to delay gratification for a larger payout. So this is the eating a snack instead of waiting for dinner. Eating the sugar because you just need to have something that tastes good fast and you don't want to make something that takes longer, or go to the store and get things. So, or even if somebody just says, dinner's in an hour, you're not able to make a really balanced decision. You're not able to have that control to delay the gratification. One of the things that I've seen is I do that a lot with my haircuts, and that might sound weird, but I don't ever want to wait for a haircut. And so if I think I want to get my haircut, I need to make an appointment. That's going to be in 2 weeks. I think if I have the desire to do it, I want to do it now. And so I'll do things like go in the bathroom and start cutting my bangs or cut the back or whatever. And last month I actually did make an appointment because I wanted to do some highlights. I don't know if you can see me here. I wanted to do some highlights too. But that appointment was a month away. So I waited and waited. And I had cut my hair right before that, but I thought you go and you get a decent haircut and look into getting highlights, see if that helps you at all. It was like 4 days before I got this impulse to go get my hair cut and to clean up the bangs and the back that I didn't do right, that I'd been dealing with for like 3 weeks and didn't even care. But for whatever reason, that impulse came. It was so strong, I couldn't get myself to wait. So I go to the cheapo place where I can get one that night. It was such a good lesson and a bad experience. It was such a good lesson on wasting money on something that I had to clean up. It was bad. It was really bad. The bangs were so short and crooked, and I'm still kind of dealing with it. In fact, when I actually went in for the haircut, she said, "Do you want me to ignore the bangs?" I thought, no, because I cleaned them up, and I want to, like if I'm paying you, I want it to be nice. And so I had to start short, and they're starting to grow out, but they're still shorter than what I would do. But that was my total choice impulsivity. I could not make a wise choice because I'd have to wait to make a wise choice. And if you've ever done that, you spent more money than you should. You've not gone to bed when you know you should. You know it's better for your health. You know tomorrow morning. But the impulsive nature but I got things I want to do. I'm happy. Like I'm not tired. Whatever. You're not making a wise decision because you have the impulse to do what you're doing right now. I see it with the sleeping things. I think having more control to go to sleep when it's good for your body is a very balanced decision. And if you're that gratification of happiness in the morning, you're like, but I'm happy now. I'm watching this TV show. I can't wait till, to finish it later or whatever it is. So not wanting to slow down. And this one, they say it has to do with your dopamine pathways. So it has to do with the receptors and, this is the last thing I'm going to say because I really do have to go. But the dopamine levels, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but when I went to the psychiatrist last time, he said that not being able to do something when you're overwhelmed is more of a procrastination problem than an ADHD problem. And I thought, what? Like, that's what everyone gets up in arms. Like, I'm okay with getting up in arms about that when people are with ADHD are accused of just being procrastinators or lazy. He didn't say the word lazy, but he said that's more of a case of procrastination. And I thought, well, yeah, procrastination is the description of what you're doing, but it's not the reason for what you're doing, why you're doing it. And I said, and so I tried to do the smooth thing where I'm questioning him or challenging him with questions, I guess. Is that what I mean? Instead of saying, you can't say that. And I just said, well, I've always thought that because I was told that with low dopamine levels that you don't have the ability to kind of step up to make that little push to get things done in the same way as people who don't have the low dopamine, who don't have the ADHD. And that with the stimulant, with a different kind of medication, it brings up the dopamine, which for me totally works. That's where my power is with the stimulant, is with the dopamine levels going up. And then he said, people with ADHD don't necessarily have low dopamine. They have more receptors. I'm like, you're blowing my mind right now. So I have to go down. And I didn't have anything to challenge that because I hadn't read into that. I had always read that we have low dopamine. And so when I went back, it made sense what he said. Because if you have more receptors, your amount of dopamine isn't feeling the need in your brain to do what dopamine does because it has more receptors. And so even though I guess what he was saying is you have the same amount of dopamine as other people, but you have more receptors, so your brain's not going to work well unless all the receptors are receiving the dopamine. And you don't have enough, even though, does that make sense? You don't have enough dopamine to meet all those needs. So it's kind of like I have 6 kids, and they're not home anymore. I mean, a couple of them are home, but they're all adults now. But I have 6 kids. It's like saying you have the same amount of food in your fridge, but you have 6 kids to feed instead of 2. So it's not going to go as far. It's not going to meet the same needs. So anyway, I thought that was fascinating. But I'm just going to leave you with that. There are so many symptoms. There are so many ways. Oh my goodness, I really do have to go. I have to teach a class in 15 minutes. This is another example of the impulsive thing. It's like all day long, you knew you needed to do this. And I did, but I had somebody coming over. I had a dentist appointment. And so fitting it in, it's way more fun in my brain to do it impulsively. Like, let's see if you can go up and make a podcast episode right before your class. And then run down and put on your shoes and just submit it later, which I'll do. I just knew I had to do it before dark because now that I'm doing on video, you have to see me better. And my son's coming on the plane tonight. But anyway, back to this. Yeah. So many things that you could do that you notice in children, like you might be fidgety. You might have your hand flap, your foot flap. Mine do. My feet are always going or your knees going. You get up when you're supposed to stay seated. You want to walk around. You have a hard time choosing where to sit. You can't, like you're restless. You might not be as quiet as people. It's kind of funny because one of the descriptions of ADHD is that these things, or with the neurodevelopmental disorder, is that things that you're doing aren't typical for people your age. And I go to the bank and I see myself in line swaying and moving, and nobody else is doing that, moving my arms up and down. Not people my age, but it's not like I'm going to grow into that. You want to jump, you want to run, you want to sway, you want to change how you're sitting 100 times. You might interrupt people or chime in, as I like to say. Both can happen. You might talk more than other people. You might finish people's sentences. That's a hard one. It's a hard one not to finish people's sentences sometimes. So yeah, any of those things, have a hard time waiting in line. You'd rather not do something than wait in line for it. I've left stores many times because there's a line. I walk in, I see the line. I'm like, nope, not today. And I think of it as a patience thing, but it's an impulsivity thing. It's a hyperactive thing. And yeah, I could look at it as impatience too, but yeah. But it's okay. It's how we're wired, and we can learn to work with it. And hopefully people in our lives can learn to work with it too. Like I've been working with I've been holding my hair back all the time. That's what I do. I play with my hair. I can French braid my hair can you do that? I learned how to do that in math class. I learned to French braid the person in front of me, and then how to do my own either on the side or here. It gave me something to do with my hands, and I loved it. But I really do have to get out of here. So thank you for being patient with me for my timing and all that. And my son won't be in this room all the time the next couple of days, so I will come up here and continue on with this because I find it fascinating. In looking into this, just the impulsivity part, the hyperactive part, I also became curious about other things, and I'd love to share those with you. I hope you're curious about it too. And if you ever have anything that you want to share with me, or questions that you have, or more information that I don't have, I would love to hear it. So thanks so much. I will be back again. Bye. Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause. No time for a pause. The silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.